So our guess is that with enough chances, people will eventually make enough good choices to qualify for the good place. And maybe some never will, but that's okay because everyone gets a fair shot.
Hold the phone. What are my demons doing this whole time? I have millions of lava monsters down there who'll be out of a job. I ask you, into whose throats are they supposed to pour lava?
Well, bad news is no more throat lava or penis flattenings.
Then what are we doing to their penises?
Well, largely ignoring them.
You guys are hearing this? I'm not crazy, right?
No, I mean, it's a fair question.
Whose side are you on, man?
I don't have a dog in this fight, little lady. I'm just looking for clarity.
What do you think your test that determines over a million times whether or not you make it into the good place, like the key thing to your fatal character flaw? And I know, Steven, that you're the type of person that would maybe claim that you don't have any character flaws. Do you have any inkling of what your test would be?
You know, my biggest weakness is that I just love too hard. I work too... No, I'm just kidding. It'd probably be something to do with, like... And this isn't me thinking because I'm like, oh, I have no weaknesses, but it's me trying to pick which one would be my, like, biggest one.
I'm asking you on the spot.
Yeah. Top of my head, something to do with, like, procrastinating.
Sure.
Or, like, I don't know.
You're in a room with a goal and all of your favorite time wasters.
Yeah.
And it's how quickly you get to the task at hand.
Exactly.
You think that's your fatal flaw? Oh, boy. My thought for you would be it's you and me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you and I are pretty comfortable to say just about anything around each other. So it's you and me, and I'm doing something bad to your moral compass and to your opinion that you just really want to rip me to shreds over, and you have to keep it to yourself. Mm-hmm. I feel like that'd be really hard for you.
Probably. Or
are you gonna do you keep it to yourself more often than not with me?
I'm pretty good at this is, gonna stretch this a bit, but not that much. Not that much.
Well, you're stretching.
My brother had always had trouble making friends when he was growing up, and I would tell him you have to let people be wrong. That's one reason why I think I'm okay at making friends, is I don't feel the need to correct. And now I correct every time you open your mouth because I want to beat you down. But, I think I could let you be. I guess it depends on how bad the thing you're doing is.
Agree to disagree is more what you're saying.
Yeah, I can lie in wait. I can keep my mouth shut. If I wanted to turn,
because I don't think you're wrong on that at all. I'm sure you just let stupid things that I say go. Because I will be the first to say that if the conversation is around something that I know a lot about, I will be the loudest and most informative person in the room. And then there are many times when I have nothing to say about what is being talked about, so I keep to myself. But when I'm with you, I'll just say whatever, and you'll be like, I don't think so. Well, the way I'll turn that back around on you if we're stretching, since we're stretching, if you'll let me stretch, the thing I'll say about you is maybe we could turn this around into some complex you have where you think you're always right.
I do think I'm right a lot more than I actually am. That is a thing.
And
that's one thing that I've grown with through being with Danny is being able to step back and say, you know what, maybe this person had better instincts about this than I did. Because I think very highly of my instincts, and that gets me into trouble sometimes.
I think everybody does. But also you're a man of process, I feel like, and of thinking a task at hand has a right way to have it done. When maybe there are many right ways that things can be done.
More than 2 ways to skin a cat, Zach.
What I think my test would be... Oh, I had one, but now we started stretching.
I think yours would be sitting in the passenger seat with Lil driving on a 12-hour road trip, and you can't say a fucking word.
At all?
About anything.
And I don't get to pick the music. I was going to take it back to how I was on a Greyhound bus a lot this past week, and it's me on a Greyhound bus with someone next to me. And it's supposed to be that no matter how funny of an observation I have, no matter...
You can't say shit.
No matter what they do that feels like I could jump in on, I'm not allowed to say a single thing for the first half of the bus ride, or at all.
At all. First half is not torture. You're like half the bus ride? Fuck, I'm done for. Throw me out the window. But here's the thing, Zach. They're also watching... they're jumping between different things that we've either podcasted about.
Oh my
or
God.
They're like watching Community. They're like watching.
They're creating a Joel McHale fan cam, and I have to not tell them that I've interviewed him.
They're watching, even worse, Zach.
They're watching
an
our
episode
interview.
of our podcast.
Yeah.
And
And
you
they
can't
don't
say
even
a word.
notice me.
No.
And I have to not say anything. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Into the Time Knife. If you're listening to this podcast and sitting next to me on a Greyhound bus, don't say a fucking word.
Just to be safe, if you're listening to this next to someone on a Greyhound bus, just reach your hand over and grab theirs. And if they squeeze back, then you'll know that it's Zach.
That it's me. Hi, everybody. I'm Zach, a.k.a. Cookie Puss.
You do have a cookie puss.
Yikes. Who are you?
Hi. Who are you? Who are you, man? What's gonna do? I am not thrown away, Mike. Hi, I'm Steven, and if we going out, I'm going out with a belly full of warm pretzels. I did get a belly full of warm pretzel at the airport on my way to Philadelphia.
That seems like
Always
a
stop at
great
Auntie Anne's.
airport snack.
Mm-hmm. They didn't have my little mini hot dog bites. But they did have the regular little.
I didn't need the
pretzels.
visual. Sure.
So I did get the mini pretzel bites. That's a pro tip. If you're going to Auntie Anne's and you're like, I'm going to get a pretzel, don't get the whole fucking pretzel. That's barely any food. Get the cup full of little pretzel chunks. And if they have the hot dog ones, get that one. The pizza ones are really good too. That's Danny's fave.
Well, since we've talked pretzels, before we get into our week, I just had one observation to go back to Greyhound buses for just 1 second.
Yeah.
If you and I were complete strangers, sat next to each other on a Greyhound bus, I think
it'd be my fucking nightmare.
Despise exactly. I think it would be awful. We would not be friends.
Because I don't care if we have everything in common. I don't care if you're my long lost brother. If I'm in a public space for transport, please don't talk to me. And I've had positive experiences talking to people in these situations. I truly have, but I'm not going to seek it out. And I feel like
go
you'd
in
be
with
like,
the plan of
you'd be
how
like,
to
oh
make.
my God, I think you should leave, Hoodie. That's awesome. And I'd be like, yeah, I saw the live show. It was great. And you're like, oh, really? That's awesome. What's your favorite sketch? And I'd be like, I like the hat flaps. And you'd be like, oh, really? What's your second favorite? And it would waterfall down. And at some point, I would just want to
Early on, you'd be done with the conversation.
Now, here's the
I feel
one
the
way
same
to
way.
bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Offer me drugs and I'm in.
Or just be like, oh, hey, nice hoodie. I love that show. Thanks. I saw the live show. How was it? It was great. Well, cool. Have a good one, man.
Oh, then I'd kiss you. I would love that. Share
like,
a
I'm heading back to my
anecdote.
seat. Nice to meet you. Have a nice ride. See you later. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I am somebody that compliments people's anime stuff when I see them. There was a guy at the training. I was at a training seminar this weekend. It was fun, great time.
Yeah.
There was a guy there had like a Naruto hat on, and we walked in. And I was like, "Hey man, awesome hat!" And he was like, "Oh, thanks." And like we didn't introduce ourselves. We didn't like talk about shit. But every time we saw each other, the whole weekend, gave each other the nod of what's up and approval. It was great.
I try to do that. I try to make an honest effort of, if I notice something about someone, I want to say it to them, because maybe they don't get that very often, and maybe it's nice to have someone say, hey, I like the thing that you're wearing today. But I also try to be like, make eye contact. Hey, I like your hat. Keep moving. Like barely even
Give him
stop.
a quick kiss in the cheek.
Yeah. You know what I'm
Walk
saying?
on.
I want to say something nice to somebody, but I never want to come off as if I'm trying to stop somebody from their task, that I'm being an issue to them.
Well, and I especially do it even more now because it's a memory I have with you, Zach. We were at Universal. We were in line for the Velocicoaster, and there were
and that's a
these two
different
younger
situation
kids.
because you're standing next to someone for an hour.
Well, this is about the complimenting thing because there were these two kids that we saw when we were getting on the ride that had like anime shirts on, and I remember I was like, "Hey guys, those shirts are awesome. Love those shows." And like they like kind of like got excited to themselves, and you were like, "That probably just made those kids like an older like person like confident." And I truly just was complimenting their shirts. Thought it was cool. If you're into something that's not super mainstream or like, I don't know, it's kind of validating for somebody to walk up and say, hey, I also think that thing is cool.
Or just in general, if in a world where we're all hoping nobody talks to us, that was something. We'll talk about the Tim Robinson thing for just a second. Before he sang a song, he was going on this little speech about like, this world's so fucked up.
Fucked up.
What happened to a smile instead of a frown? What happened to starting a situation with hello instead of, get out of my way? Like that kind of thing. It's nice in a world where we try not to look at each other for good reasons to be like, hey, something that you did to like, you made a conscious decision to wear what you're wearing. Someone's telling you it looks nice. That's validating.
Yeah.
Steven, I like your hoodie. That's a cool
Thank
hoodie.
you.
I think you should leave.
Yeah.
What's your first favorite sketch?
It gotta be the courtroom with Brian's
and then your
safari
second
hat flaps.
favorite sketch. What's the second favorite? If you had to think about all of the sketches, what's number 2?
Yeah. Number 2 for me, which we did just watch through the entire show together over the course of a day.
Imagine me talking to you through the wall of a Greyhound bathroom.
Yeah. Am I in the bathroom or outside of it?
I'm in the bathroom.
Am I just sitting
You're
in the back
waiting
seat
for me to
and
finish
you're like,
shitting,
hey,
and I'm asking you questions from the inside.
Hey!
Number 3!
Number 2 might, just top of my head, I damn near want to go with the Ghost Tour.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know my top 10 that well. I couldn't actually list a favorite, second favorite. I just know which ones are kind of in conversation, but there's more than 10.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot.
Well, Steven and I did spend a few days together. Well, a full day together in Chicago to see the I Think You Should Leave live show. And we had a rapturous laugh at the live show. And we had a very good Zach and Steven adventure. We did all kinds of stuff together. It was a lot of fun. Do you want to reflect on that at all before we move into the good place?
Yeah, it was really great having you up here for a visit, Zach. I mean, you have a car and a flexible work schedule, so I don't know why you don't come up here more often. You have free lodging, and I'm bound to at least treat you to one meal while you're here. But yet, first time in
that's true
in a while that you've just popped up to say hello.
Honestly,
but it was very nice having you.
Staying with you was so comfortable and accommodating that I probably would be more likely to say something mid-level is coming to town. Do you want to go? / if I go, can we hang?
Yeah, I'd like that.
And I feel like we're comfortable enough that you can always tell me, no, absolutely not. That is the worst time to have somebody over. And I'll respect that.
True.
You never have to say, oh, okay, Zach's coming to town. We have to make this work. Absolutely not. Not that I think you'd have any problem with that.
You. We've let people that I am less close to than you stay here and we're not even here.
That's true. Well, hey, I want to talk more about this, but I forgot to shout out the patrons, okay?
Yeah,
we need to shout out the people that support us over at patreon.com/can't-disappoint
These
podcast.
are the ones we
Those
can't
$10
live
and up supporters,
without.
of course,
Come
are Mary
on.
Baker Budisa, Danny M. Lugo, Justin Fortier, and Lil S. Haker. We love the people over at Patreon very much. Give me a second. We want to thank them for supporting us every week here on Can't Disappoint Podcasts and Into the Time Knife specifically. There's so much going on over the Patreon. Last week, you got a free little taste of The Basement, and all episodes of the first season of The Basement, which is our most outrageous off-the-cuff show we've ever done.
It's off the chain.
Is on Patreon. Go check that out over at patreon.com/can't-disappoint-podcast. Now
Can
I'm
I
giving
go?
space for you. Yeah, go ahead. You may.
I want to give a special, not shout out because you got to pay $10 for a shout out, but I will.
We have
give
to
a
call it
little
something else
mention.
legally.
I will monotone say this next part because I'm not fucking excited. I'd be excited if it were 10, but I'm aware.
Come on.
There's a frequent
Pay the
commenter on
piper
YouTube.
Even though they
Deadline. We see that you're now a patron. Thank you for joining. We do appreciate your comments. We don't reply to them, but we do appreciate that you comment on our videos. Shut the fuck up, Zach. No, you
I really
don't.
liked how
I reply
monotone you
sometimes.
delivered that. You wanted to acknowledge them while keeping it as we're not happy about this as possible.
Yeah.
We're very happy. Thank you to anyone $5 and up who supports us. And joining us at $5 a month doesn't get you a shout out every week on the podcast, but it does get you every Patreon exclusive piece of content we've ever dropped over the last 3+ years. So go check
it out for free to start on Patreon. Get the little snippet if you like it. Get
the first hit's free. Then once we got you hooked,
you can even get a snippet
the
of
price
the pre-shows.
It inflates.
You get a pre-show snippet too?
Every video or podcast post we've ever made, you get a few minutes of it, I think.
Oh, come on. Check out the snippets.
Yeah.
You'll know that you want to buy.
On the pre-show this week, I won't say what I said because you can go sign up for Patreon and hear. Honestly, this was probably the grossest pre-show we've ever done because of a story that I told. So, I mean, if that piques your interest, you could go check that out. You asked me what my highlight was of our time together, and I gave you 2 pretty good answers, I think. Honestly, both, even though the show was the highlight, there were plenty of other moments to pick from of our time together. I want to hear what yours was on this side of the fence.
Honestly, Zach, my favorite moment of the entire time you were here was us sitting in this like small room that I record in, just hanging out, watching I Think You Should Leave. That made my heart very happy because like a lot of our friendship has been spent doing exactly that.
In a very small room. Watching
room.
TV on a screen that's not meant for TV watching.
Exactly. And,
that was awesome.
That's just,
that's true.
It reminded me of the days that our friendship strengthened and that we, discovered a lot of these shows that we get to talk about together. So it was very fun.
That's a really good point. We didn't watch anything new to either of us, but there's really something about even now being with my significant other and we watch stuff all the time and that's great. A lot of my friendships back in the day were based around like watching stuff together and that's not really a part of my adulthood, which is fine, but getting a little hit of it. It's nostalgic.
I remember when we were in high school, Zach, I think the first time you and I ever hung out, just you and me, I came over and you showed me 3 episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Wow. You had never seen it?
I had seen, like, my aunt had showed me, like, an episode or 2, but I didn't really watch it like that. But, like, the first time as, like, somebody who would enjoy the show, you showed me those 3 episodes, and it was great. I remember the 3 episodes, too.
Yeah, and by episode 3, we were not looking at the screen.
No.
We were busy.
Do you have a guess on what episodes you showed me, Zach?
One of my go-tos has always been...
Did you show all the girls the same 3 episodes that you invited to your house?
The waitress is getting married.
Yes.
Mac and Dennis break up.
No.
And that's all my guesses.
Nightman Cometh.
Sure, of course.
And The Gang Saves the Day, which I think is an interesting choice, but one that does highlight all the characters.
Maybe that's like what I was watching at the time. Maybe that's where I was in the show or something. Cool. Yep. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about before we get into the first of our final 5 Good Place recaps? Isn't that nutso crazy?
Shout out to... I wish I, off the top of my head, knew Lionel from the Bears' last name, but I don't.
L-Boy is his stage name.
Shout out to L-Boy and shout out to Ayo Edebiri, or Edebri.
Who we got to see in person.
Yeah, we got to see at the show. That was pretty fucking awesome. They're both incredible, and she's so funny, and she's such a star, so getting to see her is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
and
seeing
I'll
a
say
few
it here
of those
on air,
people.
I called it earlier that day.
We didn't
were
get
like,
that
who
into
do
it.
you want to
So,
see?
The I Think You Should Leave tour, it was Tim and the co-creator Zach Kanan, who I didn't think I knew who he was, but immediately knew who he was. A musician. So far at all the stops, Sam Richardson and Patty Harrison showed up, who are both really fun, familiar faces from the show. It was really cool to see them in person. It's almost like those two people like shine. You know what I mean?
They're stars.
They just like have like a glow about them. And then the special guests were Gary Williamson, who's in the Carl Havoc I Think You Should Leave sketch, and then from the Bear, L-Boy, and Ayo Edebri. Of course, I was super excited to see Ayo, whether it's from the Bear mainly for Steven, or just like she's becoming a fucking movie star over the last year or 2, and I've seen her in a few things, and she's the best part of everything she's in. Theater Camp, she was great. And
she's so funny.
Also, Patty Harrison and Ayo were both in Theater Camp. You should check that movie out. And then Bottoms, she was just great. And so to see a movie star like that in person on stage was pretty cool, pretty crazy.
Her stand-up is really funny.
I haven't seen any of her stand-up.
I just have watched a lot of clips on YouTube. She's fucking hilarious.
And Steven did call it because we knew each spot had a couple big special guests. The night before we saw them, it was fucking Paul Rudd on stage and Seth Meyers in New York. So I asked Steven, if you had to guess, I was just kind of more thinking, who is the most famous person that might end up on that stage that you could think of? And I said, it would blow my mind to see somebody like Bob Odenkirk, because I was just, if I could guess anybody.
Yeah,
and
which
Steven,
would have been
you went more
insane.
specific with it.
Yeah, I knew they were filming The Bear right now here in Chicago. And she's been in a sketch, so I didn't know that L-Boy had been in a sketch
In
that
a
was
cut sketch that they
which is kind
screened
of cool.
at the show before he came on stage and they revealed it.
But yeah, I was like, best case scenario, like it'd be a dream if she were there, and she was, and I think she like is on such an awesome trajectory that is well deserved, because she's been putting in a lot of time and effort into making things, and her acting is really good, especially for how funny she is. So I'm really excited that we got to see her when she's
so much
still
presence.
like becoming even more of a star, because she's gonna be like massive
Oh,
day.
yeah, she's going to win an Oscar one day, or at least be nominated, and we're going to be like,
Absolutely.
we were in the same room as her.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I think we should talk about The Good Place.
Let's do it. We've got a great episode to talk about.
We do have a good episode to talk about, and I mentioned it last time we talked about The Good Place. It's a cool full circle moment for Into the Time Knife, because we're kind of beginning to wrap things up here with these last couple episodes. And this was actually the episode of The Good Place that bore Into the Time Knife in general.
Yeah.
When we podcasted about The Good Place on You Can't Disappoint a Podcast in late 2022, early 2023, we did this episode. We both came up with 2 episodes and let a random decision maker decide. It was this one, and now here we are. At that time, it was like, oh, cool, we're doing a show from the end of the series, so it'll be forever until we get to it.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't forever. It feels like it was a couple months, and here we are, and we're talking about Season 4, Episode 10 of The Good Place. It's Chapter 49, You've Changed Man. This episode of The Good Place was directed by Rebecca Asher, who previously directed my least favorite episode of the entire series, The Ballad of Donkey Doug, and directs one more episode of the show with only a few episodes left. Next time, we will be talking about Monday's Am I Right, which she also directed.
Wow.
So we'll talk more about her career next time. This episode was written by Matt Murray, who previously wrote Category 55 Emergency Doomsday Crisis and my least favorite episode of all time, The Ballad of Donkey Doug. This is his final writing credit on The Good Place. Outside of The Good Place, he was a writer for 139 episodes of Saturday Night Live from the years of 2000 to 2007. So pretty decent era of the show.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a pretty good
Outside
stretch.
of that, he wrote 6 episodes of The Cleveland Show.
This is the Cleveland Show.
2 episodes of our alma mater Community. He wrote the episodes Advanced Gay and Virtual Systems Analysis, which is a
Both
season 3 favorite.
Yeah.
Both are episodes. Yeah, you're so right.
Because Advanced Gay could have been real bad, but it was great.
And it was fine.
It's pretty good.
I don't know if it's great. It's just great compared to how bad it could have been.
Yeah.
There's a whole podcast of us talking about that. You can go find it if you want. He also wrote 4 episodes of Parks and Recreation, 3 episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He was the creator of a 1-season comedy starring Cal Penn called Sunnyside. And then more recently, he wrote 1 episode of the Peacock-moved Netflix show. Wait, it was on Peacock and now it's on Netflix. Girls 5 Eva, which stars Paula Pell and Renee Elise Goldsberry from Hamilton.
Nice.
And I think Sarah Bareilles is in it, and Busy Phillips. It's like a comedy about a girl group. Yes.
That's pretty fucking cool.
That's
I didn't
Matt
know that
Murray.
existed. I love at least some of the people you just mentioned.
This episode aired at the dawn of our pandemic year, January 9th, 2020. We're officially in the year of our Lord, 2020.
The year of our podcast.
That's so true. This was like 4 months before we started podcasting about Community, and we were watching. Were you watching season 4 as it aired, or did you watch it after the fact?
I watched it after.
I think I watched it as it aired. We're going to talk about the #1 movie and the #1 album from January 9th, 2020. So this is fairly recent for us, right?
Yeah.
You should remember these. The #1 film this week was the final chapter of an all-time franchise.
I saw this in the theater.
If you're right.
Is this Star Wars Episode 9?
Yes, but it's not called Episode 9. It's called
The Last Jedi.
Nope. That's
Just
Episode 8.
Skywalker's Revenge. Your
No.
daddy's an old
you
man.
know it. Stop being silly. Think for 2 seconds. You know what this movie is called.
Okay, so there's Force Awakens, The Last Jedi.
Who's the Star Wars boy now? Really? Really? You said one of the words, one of the 4 words earlier.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, The Rise
Terrible
of Skywalker.
Stupid fucking title.
Pretty bad
What the fuck does that
movie.
have to do with anything?
And spoiler alert for Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, the #1 film from January 9th, 2020.
I need a hero.
The way that the movie ends with Rey saying, "I'm Rey." Rey who? Dumb question. Who would ask that? Rey Skywalker.
So
I
she
think the whole
married
movie.
Kylo?
What? He died.
So, but should she posthumously marry him?
No, I think she just posthumously decided she's a Skywalker.
You
now.
don't get to fucking do that.
And I think the character arc is way better if she says just Rey. because it doesn't matter where she came from anymore. Anyway,
also,
the number one film this week.
The best thing about that fucking movie were the edits afterwards, where they took Adam Driver's like badass like cut through the people scene when he's going to rescue Ray, and they set "I need a hero" to it. It's great. It
That
fits
makes a lot
perfectly.
of sense. I could see that.
Yeah, Adam Driver.
I was the guy
think
in the
attractive.
theater did Rise of Skywalker came before The Mandalorian? But The Mandalorian did a cool thing where it showed that Baby Yoda could do the force healing stuff that Rey does on Kylo Ren in the last movie, which was really stupid in the movie, seeing it in theaters. But then when you see it used elsewhere in the universe, it kind of makes it make a little more sense.
Yeah.
What I hate the most about Rise of Skywalker is the way that it's supposed to be the last movie in the franchise, and they still won't commit to doing anything final. They make you think C-3PO's dead. Never mind, he's back. They make you think that Chewbacca fucking
dead?
blew up. Nah, he's fine. He's back.
Do you know
worry
how
about it.
how like in my head I was like, oh my god, this is devastating, and somebody walked out of the theater when that happened, and then they're like 3 seconds later, nah, different ship, Chewie's fine. Let somebody fucking die.
I would have liked the movie a little bit more if it had some balls.
There's a great video essay you should check out on the YouTube channel Mother's Basement that's called Let Goku Die. And it talks about basically that issue of like, if you don't allow things like that to happen, you are just you're never gonna progress as a story or as a series. You have to let something be the end to grow as There's no final endings for popular franchises anymore.
No.
There's
always got to be space for something else. But anyway, number one movie, The Rise of Skywalker. Let's talk about Rotten Tomatoes. What do you think the critics over at Rotten Tomatoes think of the final Star Wars film?
24.
It is higher.
Okay. 36?
It is even higher than that at 51%, which is still
That's
the
higher than I
lowest
thought it would be.
Main Star Wars movie, I'm pretty sure.
As it should be.
Yeah.
I don't hate The Last Jedi as much as everyone else does, personally.
I feel like, especially on rewatches and watched as its own thing, it does okay.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
What about the audience on Rotten Tomatoes? And where do you think they sit compared to the 51%
I think
critic
a lot
score?
lower. Star Wars fans are pretty toxic.
Definitely.
That one I'm going to say is closer to like a 28.
It is higher.
Okay. We're looking at like 40s?
It is so much higher, you won't believe it. I didn't believe this
Is
number.
it like 74?
It's higher. It's 86% is the Rotten Tomatoes audience score. Stinky. Steven's doing a stinky.
Stinky.
So with that in mind, let's move over to Letterboxd, the People's app, compared to, I've translated it to out of 100. At Rotten Tomatoes, we had 51 from the critics and 86, an astonishing 86 from the audience. Where does Letterboxd stand, do you think?
3. Wait.
3. No, bad guess. Out of 100. It's not 3. What if?
62?
That'd be like a 0.0.
Yeah.
It's lower. It's a little bit lower than that.
42.
It's 48%. So the lowest of the three scores. At 48 is maybe right if I watch it on a day where I'm not super angry about it. Yeah. Let's move over to the number one album. This album was a blockbuster hit from a boy band heartthrob.
Oh, is this Harry Styles? Is it the one where he's in the bathtub on the cover?
No.
Girl, stop your crying. It's a sign of the times. Not that one? Because wasn't that one called just Styles or something?
I think it was called Harry Styles, but that's not what we're talking about.
Is this one? What was the other one called? Watermelon Sugar?
Right.
Is it
album.
one of the songs? Yeah. The Midnight Hour.
Also, Adore You was one of the big songs.
I like that one.
It has like a fisheye lens shot of him standing.
How about just Harry?
Fine Line.
Fine Line.
Fine Line. Yep. We're talking about his second album, Fine Line by Harry Styles. The singles there are a ton of singles. Lights Up, Adore You, Falling, Watermelon Sugar, Golden, Treat People with Kindness, and Fine Line. We're going to talk about Pitchfork. It's out of 10. I'm going to bring everything to 1 decimal point if there's any decimal point. Where do you think Pitchfork stood on Fine Line by Harry Styles in 2020?
7.4?
It's lower.
6.3.
It's a 6.0. 6 out of 10.
That's probably
Kinda
pretty fair
mid
for most Harry Styles albums. I don't think his albums are actually that good, and I want to like them because I like Harry Styles. But every
mentioned
time I
that
listen
before.
to one, they just feels unfinished.
I think he's got
always.
a lot of talent, and I think he's fine. I don't have anything against Harry Styles.
Yeah, I like him.
What about Rate Your Music? Also out of 10 and to the first decimal point.
Probably around the same place. I'm gonna say like 6.4.
You're really close.
6.6?
No, it's a 6.2. Almost
Okay.
exactly the same as Pitchfork at a 6.2 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us back to The Good Place. We're talking about You've Changed Man, which originally aired on January 9th, 2020. And we're going to kick it off with one of my favorite things that we do here on Into the Time Knife.
3
we're gonna
days
find
after
out,
the insurrection.
That's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
January 6th.
Think, Yeah. Do you think that people left the insurrection to go see Star Wars? Did you think they went and saw Star Wars the night before?
I think Star Wars came out at Christmas, so they probably got really angry about the new Star Wars and got some crazy ideas.
And said, we can't let this country stand.
This can no longer stand. We're going to find out everyone did. Steven, watch the episode this week.
Did Steven watch the episode this week?
I can't do a good Vader voice, sorry.
Darth Vader doesn't show up in Rise of Skywalker, but somehow Palpatine returns.
Anakin does, doesn't he? They do all the Force ghosts. There's a Mace Windu.
I
Use
don't-
the Force, Rey, motherfucker. You don't remember
I don't
that?
remember that. I remember when Harrison Ford shows up for 2 seconds and you can just see him thinking about the $10,000 today.
Yeah.
He gets the second after they yell cut before tomorrow the rest of the 8 mil goes in his bank account. And he didn't bother to like wash his hair or shave or anything
he
like
just
that.
showed up.
Yeah.
He was late.
Ray.
Rey.
Kylo.
Kylo. Grandson, come on.
Short round. Fuck, wrong thing. And they didn't have enough footage of him, so they just kept it. They Carrie Fishered him, but he was still
It was
alive.
in his contract. He only got one take.
You have 20 seconds on the clock to tell us everything that happens in You Changed Man, which I think might be challenging this week because a big part of this episode doesn't even kick off until like the third act.
Yeah. I don't know, man. We'll
All
see.
right, well, let's find
I know
out what
the episode
happens.
well.
Sure, we've
But
talked
it's
about
the
it
time.
quite a few times. You've got 20. You've recapped this episode before.
Yeah.
I wonder
First
how
time
you
I've
did
done
then.
this.
Yeah.
The standards were
you've
different
got
back then.
20 seconds on go. Are you ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1, go.
The judge is going Janet to Janet looking for her clicker thingy to destroy the world, and the gang has to find a solution that both the good place and bad place agree on. Everything they suggest, Sean turns down, the good place says yes to. It's up to Chidi to find it. He's found his whole self. They come up with a solution. Sean still says no. Michael tells him, hey, don't you miss our back and forth? And Sean's like, yeah, baby, I love you. Then they decide there needs to be a trial.
Stop.
Everyone gets...
I am going to give you through, then they decide there needs to be a trial. I think you did a good job other than giving the solution. You
Sure.
didn't give anything about Janet's void Timothy Oliphant. Nope,
No.
you didn't give any of that. That's going to take you down a bit. When I was leaning towards giving you a better score, I think that's something important enough for you to add in that you did not.
Yeah, it's time-
So
time-based,
I think
you know?
that takes us back down to I'm between two. B minus.
I won't fight you on that.
Close to a B. And if you had gotten a couple more details, you'd be in like B plus A minus territory.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think the
There was
couple of things
potential.
you missed were important
5 more
enough.
seconds, I could have gotten it up.
I liked
but-
what you did with the Michael and Sean stuff.
Thank
and
you.
Chidi. Yeah, not too bad.
Chidi boy.
Let's see how we do on trivia. We've also done trivia before.
Yeah.
We were both talking before we started recording that we looked back at our trivia from the first time we talked about this episode to make sure there wasn't any overlap. Let's see how we do. Let's see if
Let's
we
do it.
skewed harder or easier. I've only got 5.
I have many more than that.
Go
So
ahead
I'll
and give
go
me
first.
2.
What did the judge do in one day?
Watch the second season of Justified.
Yeah, you got it, baby. What's on Eleanor's shirt? This is a toughie.
Is it like a light pink?
Her sweater's pink, but she's got an undershirt, a collared shirt with a print.
A flower?
We're looking for cherries.
Oh, sure. Now I can see it that you say it. I'll go ahead and give you one. What does Chidi ask for to get to work on saving humanity? 3 things.
Chalkboard,
Yes.
A book by Shulk.
Cannot give you that.
And do you guys want something? I could go for something. Some kind of food. I don't remember what it was. Was it a sweet? Was it a dessert? Was it like cookies?
You sound so stupid right now.
Was it a cherry pie?
You sound so dumb right now. You literally referenced what it was at the beginning of the podcast.
Warm pretzels.
You look so dumb.
Yeah.
You look so dumb right now. Standing outside my house.
Nice. Baby, you put on quite
Trying
a show.
to apologize. It's so ugly when you cry. Please, just cut it out.
Why do you know that song so well? Do they do it on Glee?
Yeah, of course they did. Your turn? Is it your turn?
I was like, why does Zach know Rihanna? Yeah, it's my turn. I'm going to give you another 2, then we can go back and forth.
Okay.
Just for fun. Why shouldn't the judge cancel Earth according to Jason?
Because it's a bummer. It'll be a bummer.
In what year did Judith Sklar die?
That was one of my questions the first time, so I just read it a little bit ago, and I still am not sure. I'm going to guess 1922.
Oh, you are...
Really not close.
You're both close and very far. She was born in 1928, so that would make that kind of tough, but she died in 1992.
Okay, sure. So that's a point for me, right?
Like, numerically...
I had some of the numbers.
Close, but sequentially quite far.
My next question for you, this is kind of a tough one. What is the subtitle for Pirates of the Caribbean 12?
The whole thing or just the actual subtitle?
I took the whole thing as the title for the movie, but just tell me what you can.
Pirates of the Caribbean 12, Jack Sparrow fights...
This is funny considering...
It's like a crossover.
This is funny considering
But it had to do... Hold on. Shut the fuck up, shut the fuck
Amber
up.
Heard.
Shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
I
did. Aquaman. Is it
Yes.
Aquaman? Because, Aquaman. Yeah, that's very funny. Foreshadowing. Good place.
Do you have any of the rest of it? Jack Sparrow fights Aquaman.
I stopped paying attention there, and then it's like... We don't care if it's good. We're Disney...
Jack Sparrow fights Aquaman, probably. I mean, at this point, what does it matter?
That's funny.
Yeah. Give me one more.
What is a Jacksonville plea bargain? This is one of my questions last time, but I thought it was good.
It's when you sleep with the judge to get them to let you go?
Yeah, to get a pardon.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Next question for you. How does the judge look for the clicker in Disco Janet's void?
She puts in a little cassette, like karaoke accompanying tape that says, like, what are you looking for? Or something like that. And then she, on the mic, sings it.
You look so dumb right now. That's going to be me every time you get a question wrong for the rest of our podcasting.
Please tell me the correct answer.
Well, it shows your age because you didn't know what an 8-track machine was. She speaks into a microphone attached to an 8-track machine with a tape labeled, "What you looking for, baby?" You kind of got that one right. And she just says, "Humanity entered clicker." And then, bam. Yeah.
Like it's a game show. I get it. Game shows were a thing in the 70s. I have 4 more.
Okay.
What is the trinket stand called?
Joni loves tchotchkes. That's my next question.
That's very funny.
So I only have one left. So let me give it to you so you don't take it and then rapid fire me. What does the sign next to the door in our Janet's void say? I asked some toughies. I only got a couple, but they were a couple toughies.
Universe or humanity ender clicker thingy right here? Or inside?
That's pretty close.
Close, yeah.
It says humanity eliminator clicker thingy, and there's just an arrow, and it says secret hiding place.
Nice. Secret hiding place. I do remember that.
That's like 60-50% or so.
Yeah, put it in there.
All right. The pressure's on.
What can't Tahani do?
Pull off the mod look.
You got it. What's the name of the final plan?
Don't know.
The Afterlife. A new vision for humanity.
Is that on the chalkboard?
Mm-hmm. And then what did Jason fall into the swamp trying to do?
Trying to paint the Taco Bell logo on a sea turtle, on a snapping turtle.
I'll give that to absolutely. Spray paint the Taco Bell logo on a turtle.
Logo? Did you write logo as well?
I
right?
had logo down there. Mm-hmm.
Good.
You did pretty well. We had some tough questions for each other.
I was ready for more. Yeah, thanks. You did not that good, but I asked some tough questions. And I only had like 3 or 4 by the end.
Excuse me.
You didn't get Judith Schlar's Ordinary Vices, so you might as well not have even showed up. Well, Steven, what did you think about this episode, coming back to it after a few months or a year or so? How much of it did you remember? Like we watched it yesterday.
Yeah, it felt like I watched it yesterday, honestly. I remembered everything pretty well while I was watching it, but I still enjoyed it quite a bit. I think it's a really good episode.
I do think it's a really good episode. I feel like it brings back a lot of classic Good Place isms as we're starting to close up the show. We've got a lot of scenes of Jason, Eleanor, Tahani at a classroom setup with Michael and with Chidi. That feels like a callback to the early era of the show. We get a lot of Sean. We get kind of the culmination of Sean's character to an extent in this episode, which
Sean
I think
episode.
works really well and also feels like a throwback to when Sean was the constant threat. We get the Good Place dweebs again. We get some of the best Judge stuff of the entire series. I think what really hinges on this episode for me is how satisfied I am in the answer that they come up with, and my answer to that is I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
I think it's gotta suck, compromise always sucks.
Is that the point? Does that happen as we go through the show the rest of the way? They're not happy with the new answer?
No, I think everyone's kind of happy with the new answer.
I know. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but we'll get into it. What did you remember most from this episode? And was there anything you were surprised by?
I was a little bit surprised by how predominantly unhelpful a specific character was.
Chidi?
No.
Okay, well, that's a little tease, I guess. Something to titillate me for the rest of the podcast.
Drip it like a warm candle.
Yikes.
Yeah, warm candle wax.
They didn't do that one on Glee, so I'm unfamiliar. Do you want to dive in? Let's talk about the episode.
Let's skadoosh.
I know, full totality in the eclipse is coming up, so I gotta run. I got Bart wearing some eclipse glasses for those of you.
That's cute. That's what that is. I thought it was just an
Yeah.
extension of your microphone. Now I see it.
No, I get why you would think that, though. Sure. Yeah. The episode starts with the judge and Janet popping into a neutral Janet's void. I really like how last week's episode fits in the timeline. It was just like a blip, and now we're back to what was going on before that. They stretched that out in a really satisfying way.
Yeah.
I think, is what you were saying should have been one episode last week and the week before, or is it this episode and kind of the one before the Chidi one? That's how I feel a little bit.
I don't remember.
Okay, so the judge and Janet pop into a neutral Janet's void. The judge comments on how all Janet voids are kind of nothing, but neutral Janet voids are like the most nothing. And Janet, this is a good Janet episode. She's really the one who is stuck with the judge pleading the case for Michael and the humans the whole episode. And she's pleading with the judge to not reboot Earth, but the judge is certain that what they prove, this really takes us back to several episodes ago in a good way, on how the judge feels like they've proven that Earth is broken and the only way is to completely throw out the whole thing. So she's ready to just find the thing and get over this, and everyone's stalling, and she just wants to get out of here so she can go back to her chambers and watch the 3rd season of Justified. Have you watched any of Justified?
Not 1 second, but I would probably like it.
Something I find interesting is that just a year or so ago, they did a revival, like, mini-series of Justified.
Oh, nice.
Because it's like a procedural type show, I believe, and they did like a short-lived, but I think well-received reboot. And if the judge had destroyed all of humanity, she would have never gotten Justified, Primeval something. I don't know what it's called, but there was another Justified.
Primeval. That's
maybe
intense
I made that up.
For a show
there's dinosaurs. Is that
sheriff.
dinosaurs?
No, that's no.
No, it's primitive.
You're thinking of prehistoric.
Prehistoric. Yeah, it's Timothy Oliphant v. a bunch of dinosaurs. I'm sure the judge would eat that shit up.
Yeah, I'd be here for it.
So Janet stresses if the judge ends the universe, she'll be taking so much human culture away. All of Shakespeare, she says another thing, and then she says Timothy Olyphant, which the judge couldn't do without Timothy Olyphant. That one stings. She refers to Timothy Olyphant as 50 gallons of man in a 10-gallon hat.
I get it.
Do you have much familiarity with Timothy Olyphant then, other than him just showing up as a actor on like red carpets and late night shows and stuff? Have you seen him in anything?
The Office. He's
Oh,
Danny
that's
Cordray.
right. That's right. I always forget that he showed up in The Office.
Yeah.
Honestly, the main takeaway I have of Timothy Olyphant is he's always really funny when he shows up on anything with Conan O'Brien, including his podcast. They're actually really good friends and they have a really nice rapport. And Timothy Olyphant will like talk for the entire hour and just like endlessly change from one topic to another it's really funny. I recommend listening to any of his episodes of Conan's podcast. Really good stuff.
Ooh. I'll check one of those out.
The judge, she says, I'm the judge. I made a ruling. I'm going to stick to it. And that makes sense. At this point, an impartial judge, it doesn't matter what you say to me. We already did all that. The trial ended. This is what's going to happen. As soon as she finds the clicker, she's ending the world. So she finds this really boring old office computer in neutral Janet's void and types a code to find the universe destroyer clicker thingy, and it comes up blank. So this Janet's a wash. That's the start of the episode. They pop out of the void and we see the chambers and we see Michael and all the humans again in the middle of what they're going through. And the judge asks neutral Janet for her last words, which I thought were very funny.
That was one of my questions last time, I believe.
What were her last words?
These are my last words.
End of words.
End of words. Yeah.
and she presses the nose, puts the paperclip in the ear, and marbleizes this Janet. When the judge asks who's next, because there's still a smattering of Janets left, not a ton compared to the crowd there were the last time we saw this. When she says who's next, a bad Janet can't help but speak up and trash talk. She says something about the judge's dad's butt or something, something being up the judge's dad's butt, because the judge says that is so interesting because last time I checked, I didn't have a dad. That's why I'm attracted to all the father figures on the TV I watch. She says.
That's really funny. Great line delivery.
Really good Maya Rudolph-isms of kind of adding noises to the end of lines that I'm sure were just her doing her. That works really well. Honestly, outside of SNL, Maya Rudolph as the judge is one of my favorite Maya Rudolph characters. And she's one of those SNL alums that kind of shows up all over the place. She's great in Bridesmaids and in a lot of other things. But she just really works as the judge of all humanity who's obsessed with pop culture. She's been so good.
Yeah, I think that Maya Rudolph is super funny.
Janet warns Michael and the humans that they can't do this much longer. They can't just keep playing keep away. And Michael puts a lot on Janet's shoulders, saying, keep trying, have her see the light. It's a punny bit here when Janet says, I showed her the light. And she was there when it was invented. It didn't do much. She wasn't that impressed. So Janet pops away to deal with the judge, and Eleanor approaches Chidi. We talked a lot last week about how smart and mature it was to not spend much of that last moment where Chidi wakes up on the Eleanor relationship drama of it all. How do you feel about this scene where Eleanor comes up to Chidi and asks about the status of their relationship?
Love it.
Yeah. She's even like, we don't have much time. I'm not going to take much time, but we don't have much time. I love you.
Yeah.
And she doesn't even actually say that. Chidi interrupts with, you love me? Yeah. Well, yeah, I love you too. I love you. Cool. We're on the way to Coolsville. Chidi is so Coolsville, and that's my big revelation from watching this episode in context versus watching it on its own, is it feels rushed if you just watch this episode. Of course it does, because it's Chidi. Yeah. But off the heels of last episode that so well takes its time to get us to this point, they don't have to take but a second for Chidi to say, yeah, of course I love you. I just saw everything.
Yeah, I think the Chidi that we get from now until the end of the show is about as perfect
character arc.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
The full circle of Chidi
Final
is so
form
good.
Chidi.
Absolutely. Final form, all of these characters, really.
Yeah.
Because in this episode, we see Tahani and Jason be so true to what we know their archetype to be, but to offer useful help knowingly, both of them. It's really cool how this show is wrapping up story-wise in some obvious ways, but wrapping up its character arcs in pretty subtle ways that make you think back of how complete all of these characters, whether it's Sean or Jason, have had through the show so far. So Chidi, he's so sure of himself now, and Eleanor notices how unlike him that is.
It's kind of doing it for me. Should we get out of here? No, but I like the confidence.
Chidi mentions that after having all of his past selves uploaded into him, that he's found this real sense of clarity. Michael gives a knowing smile, and another line that's really important to our podcast shows up when Michael says, "You saw the time knife, huh?" Yep, saw the time knife. It was neat.
I like Michael's face, like, neat, like, that's it?
Yeah, it's the time knife. Do you think they used the episode title Chidi Sees the Time Knife too soon? Do you think it should have been last week's episode, The Answer?
No.
And this week's episode could have been called The Answer?
I see where you're coming from there, but I like that when Chidi sees the time knife for the first time is when we get that episode.
But when I think Chidi sees the time knife, I've always thought this moment of, yeah, I saw the time knife, it's whatever, and Michael going, it's whatever. But I didn't really realize until this episode that it's this. It's not in that episode. That's like the Tahani with the Need Noggle episode. It's a good one, but it's not as good as... I feel like this paints a better picture of what the time knife is than the original episode
But
did.
I think what's tough is we can't equate his entire outlook to him seeing the time knife, because he wasn't this way after seeing the time knife. He was this way after seeing himself through all those lives, including the one that he saw the time knife.
No, I think seeing him live out his time endless times in a finite amount of time is the time knife.
No, he's seen the time knife before, Zach. We know for a fact that's not the time knife.
I disagree.
So you think that Chidi regained all his memories when he saw the time knife all those episodes ago?
No, but I think he saw that concept in a different way of time stacked. And they say it in that episode of time, like stacked ad infinitum. So it looks like the blade of a knife. I think it's same, but now he sees the time knife as it relates to his existence.
They're two different things. Because then Eleanor has seen the time knife at that stretch. So has Jason, and so has Tahani. But
I don't
only
disagree.
Chidi has seen the time knife.
I don't think I disagree with that.
But only Chidi has seen the time knife.
I don't know.
I don't think you understand what the time knife is.
I feel like I'm making you frustrated with me, but I feel like what I'm saying makes sense. So I want people to sound off and let me know that I'm not stupid or crazy, because I know I can't look to Steven for that reassurance at any time.
Yeah. Is this my test? Is this it right now?
Chidi says that now it's time to save humanity. He asks for what he needs: a chalkboard, a copy of Shklar. What was your wrong last name?
Shklar?
You didn't say that. You said something stupid and wrong. You looked so dumb Shklar right then. No, because if you had said Shklar, I would have said you got Shklar. Ordinary Vices and some warm pretzels. You like a good warm pretzel, I've learned.
Love a good warm pretzel.
It's never a snack that I think of going to, but it's also never a snack that I regret having had. They're tasty.
Yeah, pretzel with some mustard.
How much salt? Do you ever like brush off some of the salt because it's just this big, crunchy, bitter salt?
No.
I like salt on my pretzel, but I don't need too much salt on my pretzel.
I've had an oversalted one that I shook a little bit, but
sometimes it's like so much salt that I'm like, ouch.
But only so that I can like dip it in the mustard and then roll that in the salt. So extra.
Never cheese, always mustard.
Cheese if I'm getting Auntie Anne's. If I'm at home, always mustard.
Like a microwave type situation or a toaster type situation.
Air fryer.
I think I would always like cheese and mustard, and I always like having a couple options. You know, it makes it feel like multiple snacks in one.
That's fair. Okay, mister, I have multiple sauces in my home.
So, yeah, Chidi wants to go out with a belly of warm pretzels. Yummy, yummy, yummy. I don't know if it would be my end-of-universe snack of choice. Would it be yours? No.
No, but he's not.
It's not a poor choice.
You know, it's a possibility, but I feel like
he's getting brain food right now.
Okay, so there's the theme blurb, and then after that, Michael just kind of puts it to the group. Before we really start spending our time coming up with the new afterlife, does anyone just have a good reason why this shouldn't happen that might get through to the judge? And Jason, this is my favorite small, funny moment. This moment between Jason and Michael.
Has anyone just thought of a good reason the judge shouldn't cancel Earth?
Because it would be a bummer.
Yeah, we might need more than that.
Are you at least going to write it down? Did you actually write it down, or did you just do a scribble scrabble?
Scribble scrabble.
And then Eleanor starts talking, and during that, we cut back to Michael, who rips off the paper and turns it to Jason, and we see that he scribbled the word bummer. So he confirmed, it's kind of cute moment between the two that's quiet. Eleanor,
I like this Jason one a lot. I do feel like throughout the episode, and maybe I'll feel differently on recap, but that not all of Jason's interjections were super helpful. And the ones that weren't helpful weren't all funny enough to warrant
I don't think
them.
it's
But
his best
I have
episode
no
or
issue
anything.
with it because I love Jason.
There are a couple of moments where Jason says something that actually has a point to it.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to it.
You said through the recap. Let's get through the recap, okay?
I'd love to recap, Zach. Please. Can we recap?
Eleanor starts talking about how they
Is
need
that short for
to come up
recapture? Like
with
recapture the memory?
recapture. Maybe, but that's not like how I think about it when I say
No.
it. Even though I guess that's true. Recap is like going back and describing something that we all experienced. So I guess, yeah, recapturing the memory. Sure. Write us in the comments. Recap. What does it really mean? We've been doing it for years, but we don't really know what it is. Eleanor says they need to come up with a new afterlife that both the good and bad places can agree on, which is going to really be the struggle of this episode. It seems impossible. Tahani has a really interesting name drop story that she comes back to a couple of times this episode. She believes in compromise because once she was in Portofino with Bruno Mars, LeBron James, and Dr. Ruth Westheimer. Is that the sex doctor?
I think that is the sex lady.
Because my mom used to listen to this talk radio like Dr. Laura, and I think she's like a crazy one. Dr. Laura Schlesinger. Write me in the comments, Dr. Laura. I remember her, but should I?
Yeah, I think the one mentioned here is the little old lady that talks about sex.
I think so too. Eleanor says no time for that, and Tahani recognizes this. She knows that it's better to just move on. So she says, okay, long story short, LeBron performed a tracheotomy. What is that? I assume that's
where
with the
you tracheotomy is where you cut a hole in somebody's throat and you put like a straw or something in there to
so they
to
can
get
breathe.
oxygen.
Wow, sure. On Bruno Mars.
Not recommended to do.
Do you think he did it to Bruno Mars, which led to them being inspired to write the song with Dr. Ruth?
I think that somebody was injured, right?
Yes.
Bruno's
one
there.
of those
Bruno's
three or
not
somebody
the victim.
else?
Somebody else.
Okay.
And
LeBron had to step in and give his first tracheotomy.
But Bruno's giving CPR, and you need something that's around 100 beats per minute, such as Staying Alive, or another one Bites the Dust. But if you check, Uptown Funk is a very similar tempo, so she might be going Uptown Funk you up.
But the song wasn't written yet. The whole point is they wrote the song over the situation. That's what I'm thinking. Like
in that moment, and Bruno said, "I'm going to take what you were saying to me."
Bruno's like,
and
"Well,
make
I've got this
song.
beat." He's like, I got this beat, but it doesn't have any words, but it's the right BPM, you know? How does Uptown Funk go? What's the bass part? Boom. And Dr. Ruth is like, earlier when I was showing dildos on TV, I kind of got this little ditty in my head.
This here, that white gold, Michelle fight for that white road.
And LeBron's like, that's sick. And he adds in a little bit too. But anyway, it doesn't matter what really happened, even though Eleanor really wants to hear the story
for this
now.
person that's hurt.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Regardless, the song won multiple Grammys. I did it in show choir my senior year of high school, and everyone was happy.
Funk?
Yeah, we said,
we did
too
thrift
hot,
shop the year I was
hot
in it.
dog. Call the police and the fireman. Too hot, hot dog.
Just stop picking songs with profanity in them. Remember,
we did also do thrift shop.
This is bow bow awesome.
Yeah. Chidi has his setup and he's explaining to the crowd where he's getting his thought process to come up with an idea. Starting with the essay, Putting Cruelty First by
Laura
Schlar. We're talking
Schlar. Is it Laura? Was that right? Judith Schlar.
Judith Light, who said, we should consider cruelty as society's primary flaw. And of a lot of these philosophy things we bring up in the show, I don't think that's wrong. I think that's probably pretty up there. Being cruel is the worst thing about people because everyone's capable of it and it's at the root of most of our issues, right?
Well, and most animals aren't like cruel. Some animals do things that we would perceive as mean so that they can get an advantage when it comes to food or mating.
Or
but
power,
they don't but they
money.
don't just like do any more than necessary usually. I don't know.
Oh, you're talking about animals. I blacked out for a second and started talking about people. That's why I said money.
Yeah.
I don't think
money.
I don't think any hyenas are like, I'm working the stocks. I'm working the stocks. Chidi is giving his point, and then someone says, "Oh, okay. Are you wearing roller skates?" Yeah, I got them from Disco Janet. And I like whenever we cut to Disco Janet, and she says something like "solid"
or "far out."
How do you feel
Disco
about
Janet's one of my favorite characters in the
Chidi
show.
teaching on roller skates?
It's pretty hot.
You think so?
Yeah.
Do you think you could do pretty well on some roller skates if you strap some on right now? Too tall?
I was always really bad at it growing up.
Really?
And I've only done it a few times.
You don't think
Maybe I'd be
dancing
better
would've
now
helped?
that I'm more aware of my body, but I don't think my dancing would translate very well. I actually would avoid skating at most costs because I could very easily get injured.
You can't hurt those legs. Those legs are the money makers.
These are my money makers. These are what the old ladies pay to come and grind up on.
Chidi keeps preaching, and I'm picking up everything he's saying. This is all true. If someone sells a joint and gets locked up, the crime wasn't cruel, but the punishment is. And that's one of the things that's broken about our society. Jason knows all about this. I once went to jail for a week because I stole a hot dog. Well, a hot dog-shaped car. I stole the Wienermobile. Everything comes back to I think you should leave.
Look at that.
Hot dog.
Oh, wrong finger. There we go. Look at that. Hot dog.
Call the police and the fireman.
Fireman. Hot dog. Hot dog.
Hot dog. Very good. Chidi says that the afterlife is also cruel, and the cruelty of that punishment doesn't match the cruelty deserved by the life that someone has lived. And then he says, now watch the spin. And he does a slow spin, not really
so
even
good.
very show-offy. I really like it. Very nice. Eleanor agrees. They need an afterlife that causes the least amount of cruelty to those who don't deserve it. It's a problem of justice. One of the cutest moments of the episode, Chidi has to interrupt that with a kiss.
We need to come up with a system that will result in the least amount of cruelty and suffering to those who don't deserve it. This is a problem of justice.
Hearing you talk about philosophical concepts of justice is sexy. You want to get out of here?
Yes. No. Keep going.
The way he so assuredly says sexy
Yeah.
is sexy.
Yeah. Chidi's absolutely lighting my loins aflame this week.
Giga Chad in a good way.
Yeah.
He says, want to get out of here? Second of the episode. She says, yeah, I do. Well, no. Keep going. It's very sweet. Janet pops into the next void, a bad Janet void. I love all of the touches in the bad Janet void, which include Chidi's charades monster. It's blaring the Gummy Bear song. There's a literal dumpster on fire, I think. And the judge and Janet enter the void through a porta potty.
It's so
And the
funny.
judge is trying to turn off the music, and she says, music off. Oh, I forgot. Everything's backwards here. Make it louder. And then the music cuts out.
I think it's something I never thought of is the different Janets having different voids, and I think it's so clever.
The beige one, the disco one. It is
I
really
think
clever.
I think it's just such a funny thing that they came up with for this episode.
There are a few things in this episode, one of which is big, and we'll get to it later in the episode, that I think are like, oh, this is an idea they could have been doing the whole series. And the fact that they save it for this episode is really smart, and it means that they don't overuse these good ideas. They save it for the right moment, and this is definitely one of them. Janet suggests that if they start humanity over, maybe things will just get bad immediately, maybe things will end up worse. Janet suggests, what if they invent rap rock sooner and it becomes the only kind of music? A world Danny M. Lugo would be proud to call home.
Rollin', rollin', rollin'.
An entire world of Limp Bizkits run by President Kid Rock?
That sounds terrible.
Knowing our country, it
We're
could
not
happen.
too far from that.
It's
Yeah.
not that far. The judge taps into Bad Janet's computer, and it's like a virus-ridden early 2000s computer that automatically needs to be software updated, and she X's out of it, but it starts, and then a bunch of screens pop up, and then
I
the whole
think that
thing
joke
crashes.
could have gone on even longer. Like, I think
Oh,
they could have
sure.
stretched that one a little bit. It would have been even funnier.
But the way that it ends, 0 results found. Way to go, numbnuts. And there's like a vomiting, retching sound over top of it. So they pop out of that void, nothing there, and it's time to marbleize Bad Janet. really good Darcy funny moment here as Bad Janet.
Okay, Mama. See you in the next life.
Before you marbleize me, can I just make one final statement to summarize how I really feel?
I think I know where this is going.
The crying through the fart is so funny.
The judge marbleizes her, and next up is Disco Janet, who responds with out of sight.
Out of sight.
The judge sees the gang has their classroom set up, and she's surprised that they're still there trying. She says, I thought you'd be maybe at Mindy's. Go to Mindy's and have a lukewarm beer and wait for the end of humanity there. Except for you, Cookie Puss.
I always have room for you.
I love the way she almost goes into her hormone monster voice a little bit. It's in her throat. It comes from a different place. The Cookie Puss. I can't do it. It's a.
I get another read of that.
Yeah. Cookie Puss.
Wow.
You like that?
I like that you turned like Swedish. Cookie Puss. That's great.
She pops away, and that gave Michael an idea. And also Jason. Michael's like, I've got an idea. Jason says, me too. We should get Chidi to hook up with the judge to get out of trouble. I've done it a lot of times. It's called a Jacksonville plea bargain.
So funny.
But Michael's idea is better than that. It's Mindy, the medium place. Big season 1, just overarching callback that Eleanor has been saying from the beginning. There are tons of people out there that don't deserve the bad place, that don't really deserve the good place either, that do deserve a medium place, a real third option. And that's Michael's idea. We literally make the medium place a third option. Eleanor picks up on that and says, well, yeah, if you get negative points, you blew it and your penis gets flattened. Over 1 million, she makes a noise and says, party time. And everyone in between gets their own Cincinnati.
I think it's not a great system, but it's not terrible.
You could do worse than Cincinnati.
Yeah.
As much chili as you want, but it's like Skyline style.
Hey, I'll throw some fucking spaghetti in my chili. I'll fuck that up.
Chidi says that, like you said, it's not as cruel, but it is not perfect. So Michael suggests they take it to the good place people for approval. I don't know why they even thought that would be an idea. Why they'd have any help at all. Because they're all just lounging around eating froyo, enjoying their life. And they say, you're awful cheery for the world being about to end. And Paul Scheer, I think, is the one who says, well, it's hard not to be, or maybe it's the woman. I forget who says it. Hard not to be cheery when you're eating this delicious frozen yogurt. It's Paul Scheer who says he got one that has a small amount of each flavor. So every bite is a compromise. At a froyo place with all the flavors and you choose, are you stacking flavors? Do you pick a couple?
I usually don't go more than 2 or 3.
I really liked
the
place that was in town that had like the little paper divider that you could put in your cup.
Oh, that's cool.
So you could have 3 flavors in your cup, but keep them separate from one another. Because some flavors I don't mind to mix, but sometimes I'm like, I want to try a little bit of everything, and I want to try them as they're meant to be ingested by the creator.
I'm a put my shit all together, throw it in a blender, and I'll drink it, honestly. I don't give a shit what you put in me.
As they congratulate themselves, the Good Place nerds, on their compromises, Chidi, one of my favorite Chidi moments of the episode.
You are so right.
Well said. Shut up! Shut up! Hi. Shut up. I'm confident now.
Eleanor apologizes for him and pushes him back and begins to tell them their idea, which they love before she even begins telling them their idea. They say, if you guys come up with it, it must be good. We all agree. So literally all they have to do is convince Sean. They seem to not think it's going to be as hard as it will be.
Yeah.
Tahani believes if she can convince Dr. Ruth not to sue Bruno Mars, then anything can happen. Dr. Ruth should have gotten that Uptown Funk money.
Yeah, she would have gotten
if she was the one that
laid
laid down this Hit That Ice Cold, she definitely should have gotten a little kickback on that.
Hot dog.
Do you think Dr. Ruth, she's like a book doctor. She's not like a
medical
tracheotomy doctor.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
We're in Michael's office for a moment, and Tahani explains the new idea that they have to Sean, who they have sat down. And Sean immediately, really convincingly admits, this does make sense. I like that it kind of skews negatively for you guys, this compromise. The humans, you're taking this, and everything really stays the same for me. He's in, but not really. And we get another good Michael evil laugh.
Yeah.
And that really stresses Eleanor out because they've only got 20 minutes left and all of humanity is going to be erased forever. And Sean's just playing cute little bad place games. He's not willing to really come to the table and talk. He says, and?
One of the runners in this episode that I like is once again we have like a ticking clock leading us towards the end of everything. But instead of a literal ticking clock, it's posed more as like, well, as long as Janet can keep her busy, but she's limited with how many Janets are left. And I like that medium of the time crunch versus an actual timer.
I saw this really great YouTube video suggested to me that was William Jackson Harper, Darcy Carden, and Manny Jacinto sitting down and being read the ending of the season 1 finale for the first time. And the part where specifically Eleanor's like, we figured it out. Send me and Chidi to the bad place. But what about this? Nope, you said we're out of time. It's now. We're ready. Me and Chidi. But doesn't that not make sense? Because no, we don't care if it's fair or not. We decided. Me and Chidi. And then like Bomba John pops in and is like, I just found this magical thing that'll make everything. It turns out nobody. Nope, don't care. Send us to the bad place. And then she goes into well, I've been thinking. And it's this really great video of watching the three of them hear that for the first time and figure out the bad place thing. And you're right. The ticking of time has always been a Good Place staple, but never a button click away from destroying the entire universe. So it's really final.
It's great.
They stress to Sean that he should be worried about this too, because the bad place will be empty also if they restart humanity, and it'll take forever for them to fill it back up with bad people, and everyone there will have nothing to do. Michael asks Sean to listen to reason, and Sean, very fitting for his through line of this episode, he doesn't want to listen to them. He's had enough of their gross new ideas. He's sick of it. He just wants to do things the way that they've always been done. If the judge says this is what we got to do, that's what we got to do. That's when we get the title of the episode, when Jason says, Sean, you used to be cool, but you've changed, man.
That's so funny.
Earlier you said, Jason, not so funny this episode. Not so funny, Jason.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said on recap, maybe I'd feel
You actually really said that. Sean leaves to work on a long, evil speech for when this is all over. Meanwhile, the judge and Janet they're distracted for a second because they're disco dancing to Ring My Bell and Disco Janet's Void.
Ring my bell.
Hey.
Ring my bell.
At the end of the episode, do we play that, or do we play the Gummy Bear song, or do we now play Take a Bow Glee version by Leah Michele?
Stay tuned to find out.
For a second, the judge forgets what she's looking for, and then, those infectious disco grooves. As a society, we've moved past hating on disco, right? Disco's kind of cool. It's got a beat.
Disco's cool.
And we like a beat. Club music has come back in a big way, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, just look at Jungle. They make disco-y dance music, and Back on 74 was a hit.
Jungle Boogie. My dad used to be a professional softball player, and he played with a guy named Jungle. Is that who we're talking about?
Professional softball player?
Like semi-professional, like touring semi-professional softball.
Wow, did he get, did they make money for that, or did they have to pay?
No, very semi-professional. But they, went around the state and stuff. Yes.
Was he good?
I'm talking Jungle. Who cares about my dad playing softball? He played with a guy named Jungle. Is that the guy who did this?
You know that one?
I don't know.
Da, 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 da,
I don't think so. It seems like you really know it, though. Have you danced to it?
You don't know that one?
Sorry, no, I don't.
Jungle, Back on 74. Check it out.
Janet stops the judge and pleads to her that she'd talk to Sean and nudge him towards agreeing, but the judge, of course, she's going to stay impartial. She can't do that. She's only concerned with fairness, and then start singing the Erase the Earth or Erase the Earth version of that song that she comes back to a couple times. Pretty funny. She enters the 8-track into the machine labeled "What You Looking For, Baby," and asks really quietly, she's like, "Human eraser thingy." There's a big buzzer noise, and they pop out of the void to marbleize this Disco Janet. "Later, skater," she says to her, and Disco Janet says, "Keep on trucking." Shouldn't there be more of the pleading for life out of these Janets as they're marbleized, or do you think it's because they're really in with the struggle, they're willing to give up their life for what they're doing in this moment?
I think they're willing, but I think it'd be... I don't know how funny it would be if they did the deathbed, button press pleading every time.
I don't know. Seeing it in their different ways, how the different
Could be
Janets
funny.
do it might have been funny. Another thing, one of the big things, if there's anything that doesn't work about this episode for me, we'll get to it later. Why does she not start with our Janet? Why would she just expect
I think she
maybe
did.
they're and then the keep away, so she started. It just feels a little bit like, okay, and now I'm down to one. It's you. At some point, she should have been like, don't you probably just have it again?
Well, I think if I remember correctly, she did check that Janet first.
Yes.
And then she
But wouldn't
was
she
like,
double
it's not
back
there.
before doing all of them? I don't know.
I bet that
It just-
Janets can move it between each other, is the idea.
Because they're playing keep away, they say. That's
Yeah.
fair. In the office, Tahani says that for a demon, Sean's being a real knob. And Jason's coming up with a solution. He knows what they have to offer him. Something he wants. We just have to come up with whatever that is and give it to him. And then we'll be saved. Michael says that it's all pointless. And that there's nothing they can really offer to this guy who's just hell-bent on them losing. There's nothing they can do to make him change his mind. But Eleanor knows what he wants. He wants the cruelty that they're trying to argue against. Cut to outside where Sean is smashing glass at Joni Loves Tchotchkes. We talked for a second while we were together about the concept of a rage room. I think that's a really neat idea, and it would be fun to check out.
I think those are cool things. I don't know that it's. I think I would like it, but I know some people would really, really, really like it.
I think I would be healthy in the middle, skewed towards really liking it, but not being like, I have to do this every week. But being like, I got some real catharsis out of doing that, and maybe years in the future I'll do it again.
Yeah. I don't know if I like breaking things. But then again, I did used to like throwing like beer bottles really high in the sky.
You've never been in a space where you're just free to break, shatter everything you want, and maybe it'd be fun.
Maybe it'd be fun.
So they walk up to Sean, who's smashing stuff. He says, oh, hey, guys, just smashing some stuff. And Eleanor volunteers for the humans to lose permanently if he lets the judge establish the new medium place idea. If he gives them that, he can torture the four of them forever. Jason I think this is a funny line.
This is a classic trolley problem. One of your boys sets off a stink bomb on the trolley, causing a commotion so the rest of the crew can pickpocket people as they run off the train.
That's very wrong, but in a roundabout way, you kind of got where you needed to be.
Tahani is also on board. She says, I have a way you can torture me. I'll even help you get started. I can't pull off the mod look. What is the mod look? Is it short hair?
It's like that short, like flat cut. Not quite a bob.
Like 60s hair?
Like what?
Like 60s hair? Like the 1960s?
Yeah, kind of.
Michael says that Sean can even take him too. He couldn't keep working. He couldn't live without the humans. He'd want to be tortured with them. Sean, this is one of my favorite Sean lines of the episode. I would love to get some spiders in those buttholes, but that would leave so many other buttholes fully unspidered.
That's super funny.
So Sean gives his idea. He says, you know what? I'll compromise. How about you completely lose and everybody goes to the bad place, including all of them. And immediately Paul Scheer and the Good Place gang are like, yeah, rabble, rabble. Great idea. Let's do that. And Eleanor explains, no, that's already how it works, except they also all get tortured. Sean tells the Good Place people and the humans, at least negotiate. You're going to listen to my idea and not even talk about it. And my favorite probably Good Place people line is when Paul Scheer says, it's true. The least we can do is give up more and more stuff we want unilaterally until this demon is happy. Michael says, fork this. If they're going to lose, they're going to do it on their terms by not just compromising, by coming up with a truly new idea that they think will actually work, a new plan that could solve the problem of the afterlife. So Sean goes back to smashing. I like how shattering noises put a period on several of the statements at the end of this little scene. Eleanor agrees. They're going to come up with a plan, but they've only got like 10 minutes. And so here Michael digs to the bottom of his soul and gives this speech to get everyone invested and ready to do good, and really gives a good speech, but it takes up a whole minute of the only 10 minutes they have. So Eleanor says, okay, now we only have 1 minute. And then Sean breaks another thing. Michael asks Chidi, do you think you can do this? And something Michael said in his speech actually gave Chidi an idea. The thought that they all became the very best versions of themselves gave him this idea. So he runs off to get to work, and Michael congratulates himself. Turns out it was a good speech. And Sean smashes another thing as the scene ends. So the judge, we're getting close to the big kind of weird cameo twist of this episode. The judge and Janet pop out of Bad Janet and marbleize her before she has the chance to fart. She says, wait, one more second. Give me just 1 second. And we're not falling for this again. But then as she turns to a marble, she still lets out a fart.
Which I think is really funny. I like all the Janet poses when they're marbleized. It's always this.
And the disco Janet was a disco ball.
Yeah. I do like that a lot.
Yeah, me too. This is kind of like a sequel to Janet's a little bit.
Yeah,
without putting too much on Darcy Carden, it still puts a lot on her.
Mm-hmm.
That just leaves our Janet left, and Michael tries to stall with an idea, but the time for stalling is over. There's nothing else they can do to stop the judge. She doesn't care. She enters Janet's void. So Janet's idea now is that it's time for everyone else. If they can't stall her out here, they should all go into her void and stall her in there. So we directly call back to Janet's, and someone mentions the last time that they did that, it didn't really go so well. Are they all going to turn into hers again if they go inside? And Janet's line, it's just a simple line that explains exactly why it works the way it does this time. She says, going through that once changed me and all of you. So no, I don't think so. I think it would be fine. But why would the judge listen to them in there, but not out here? The question is asked. Queuing up such a great cameo, right?
So good.
And they set it up so well. Obviously, we knew it was coming because we've recapped this episode before. We've watched it before. I kind of think of this episode as the Timothy Olyphant episode a little bit.
Totally. Absolutely.
And it's only in this last little stretch. And if you didn't know it was coming, it's a really fun surprise.
Mm-hmm.
The judge walks through Janet's void and immediately finds a door with a sign that's labeled Humanity Eliminator Clicker Thingy Secret Hiding Place. So she enters that door and says they're so stupid. How did they think this would work? Just to find the same exact classroom setup and seats with Chidi and the blackboard and all of the people. And they have her there trapped with no choice but to listen because the door disappears and there's nowhere else she can go for the time being. But she still needs a reason to hear them out. She's not willing to listen, and Janet has one prepared. I love the pixelated appearing creation of Timothy Olyphant, and he just apparates and says, ma'am?
Ma'am.
Every moment of surprise and of infatuation that Maya Rudolph has against Timothy Olyphant is so well played.
It's
almost
so
to the
good.
point that it makes you a little uncomfortable. She does such a good job, I think.
Ma'am.
Hate me and all of it.
I love it.
She's drop-jawed and amazed. And he tells her to hear them out. Maybe they've got something to say. And she says, yeah, you're probably right. I don't mind taking in the view when the scenery is so pretty. That's me with Steven every week.
Aw.
She calls Sean in. She says we might as well have Sean be a part of this too. Just as Sean was about to, I guess, light a cannon that was full of a bunch of puppies.
My God.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Catch wind of that? And after that, now Sean is trapped too, and Chidi begins his presentation. The problem isn't just the cruelty of the afterlife. It's that it's final. This is the speech that I really like, even if I'm not 100% on board with the idea of the test that he comes up with. I love the idea that the problem is that it's final, and there's no chance of redemption once you learn the answers. And there are some religions, I think, that would call that, well, bullshit, you've got to have faith while you're alive. But I don't know. I don't hate the idea that when you die, without knowing the full truth, you're hinted, you're clued in on, you did not do such a good job.
Yeah.
Now, maybe if you're like a terrorist or a mass murderer or something, you don't get a say, or you just have no chance at passing your test.
Yeah.
Like they mentioned the difficulty of the test. But I think I like that.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I think that it gives you a chance to grow, because wouldn't you want wherever you end up to be the best you that you can be? I think it's kind of like the Brent situation, right? He was bound to be in the bad place and probably still ended up net negative.
Yes.
But he would have had another chance using that moment and starting from a point of growth where he could be a better person, and he'd be happier and everyone around him would be happier for it.
Michael brings in the example of his neighborhood. His whole neighborhood was created to torture these humans, but it made them better. So they've decided that maybe the answer is to find a way to synthesize that and use it to create a system that works that way intentionally. It'll be a system designed to give people a fighting chance to get better. Eleanor begins to speak, and for the first of two times, Tim Oliphant interrupts.
Interesting. Why don't you walk us through it?
Yeah, we're gonna, man. Just chill.
And Eleanor explains that the time on Earth isn't just a pass-fail test, but it's a class where you're supposed to learn everything you need to get into the afterlife, and then the test comes in the afterlife. This is where I thought Jason was helpful, because he also like goes down the presentation line. And Jason explains that you still screw everything up in life like everyone does, to the point where people are like, this is messed up even for Florida, but you can't hear them. And then he gives the example of falling into a swamp trying to paint the Taco Bell logo on a snapping turtle. We rest our case, Your Honor. I thought that was so funny how everyone rushes to the no, we don't. We do not rest our case. Yeah. We've barely started, actually.
So funny.
Then Chidi explains that the point system will now, instead of determining where you go, determine the difficulty of the test that they get when they come to the afterlife. Then Tim, during his speech, gets up and just kind of starts looking around and poking around at things. And they kind of give him a sideways glance. And he says, who's designing these tests exactly? And everyone's like, why is Timothy Oliphant asking questions? But it is kind of a good question, because it's explained that the idea is for a good place and a bad place architect to work together to create a test that gets to each person's key character flaw, as we discussed at the beginning of the podcast. All of these 4 characters have learned through their time and their trials here what their flaw is. They'll take information like that to create a test that shows what they're going to do. Kind of like when Tahani wasn't able to walk through the doors. That kind of thing is what comes to mind. As they all list their flaws, Tahani says, well, I know I have other faults, but the mod look is a big one, so if you want to use that. Michael says the test could range from thinking you're in the good place and you don't belong, like Eleanor's original experiment, or it could look just like your regular life, or it could be...
Which I think
like
is an interesting concept, to almost get like a redo at a chunk of your life.
Yeah. Or it's like a weird, skewed dream version of your life is another way they could do it too. And then you either do well or badly. And then instead of being sent one place or the other, this is where things get even more interesting. They say you're given an explanation of how you did, and then you're evaluated and you get the results of that before being rebooted, having your memories wiped, and then being tested again and again and again until it's aced or not. Does that mean that nobody ever goes to the bad place? And it's just that the bad place people... I think
the new bad place is the test.
Doing the test forever.
Yeah.
That's a point that I think they could have made that they don't flat out make.
They kind of do,
also
and they tell you.
Well, apparently not, because we're talking about it, huh?
I mean, you quoted it and said, or you don't, which means you stay there. Like, they would have had to expressly say, if you fail it 100 times, you go to the worst place. But they didn't.
Sure. Whatever. Tim interrupts Eleanor again when she tries to talk to say, well, if they get rebooted over and over again, how do they get better? And the judge agrees. Good point, Timothy Oliphant. Tim's fine. I forget who said, maybe Eleanor says that, and he says Tim's fine. And they learned that in the reboots, they're posing that they'll have a vague recollection of their evolution, like a little Chidi voice in your head, giving them a cute moment to trade looks at each other. And this helps Tim understand and like take a seat back and sit down next to the judge. I like how the judge pats on her armrest, and that's where Tim Oliphant sits down. I do too. Chidi says that he believes with enough chances, most people will qualify, and then some never will for the good place. But if they had expressly said, you're right, they say it. Some never will qualify, which is okay because it's fair. They're not just immediately judged and sent away. But Sean, he's worried about the working man. What about the millions of jobless lava monsters? He says in a real et tu, Brute type way, I ask you, into whose throats are they supposed to pour lava? Maybe my favorite interaction of the whole episode. Michael says, well, no, there's just not really going to be any more of that. No lava monsters, no penis flatteners. Then what are we going to do to their penises? Well, we'll largely be ignoring them and doing nothing to them. Ugh. I can't be the only one who think this is just crazy. And Timothy Oliphant is like, yeah, this is crazy. We're not going to do anything with their penises. Someone says, whose side are you on, Timothy Oliphant? But he doesn't have a dog in this race. He's just trying to find answers like everybody else. I think maybe he uses the phrase little lady.
I think he does throw a little lady into there.
Michael explains that all of those monsters are going to have jobs because they'll be working on these tests. They'll be playing roles like in the original neighborhood. And Sean, even he had so much fun pretending to be a judge when he thought he was in on the first experiment. Yeah. It'll be just like that. The real judge isn't sure that this would work, and Jason chimes in another kind of smart moment. He says, well, it kind of already has. Chidi has proven that just now. He got all of that time to get better without knowing everything, and then once he knew everything, he got better, and now look at him. He's the best version of himself. It's a really good Jason moment.
Yeah.
He says, Chidi's new version is way cooler than the old one. I like the old version, don't get me wrong, but not as much.
Not as much.
Janet explains, too, that she's an example of this. She went from a Palm Pilot with a cool vest to someone who can lead as example, someone who can hold all these humans in her void and conjure Timothy Oliphant without problem. The humans should get the same opportunity to get better. So then it's all up to Sean. The judge is convinced. She hears this. She looks to Sean for an answer. He lets out a long pass, and he pops away. After a commercial break, we're still in the void. The judge thought this might have really done it, and she sadly bids farewell to Timothy Oliphant, who gives her a kiss on the hand. He tips his hat, and he disappears.
So cute.
And the judge goes back into, well, I guess that solves it. Erase the earth, erase the earth. And they pop out of there back into the chambers. Janet's hid the clicker again, but they only have seconds. It's not like it was before.
Yeah.
But Michael hopes that he can get through with one last hope, breaking through Sean, breaking through his tough exterior. Leads to a really great scene where Michael and Sean finally come to a conclusive agreement. I think this works really well for both of the characters without ever feeling like Sean sells out on the true ultimate little devilish stinker that he is.
Yeah, and I think that it's great because they're able to sum up one of the most important relationships in the whole show and one of the most honestly validly emotional relationships. You know, Sean and Michael were a team. They were close.
Together
he
from the
trusted
beginning.
Michael, and then Michael's kind of the only person to ever betray or stand up to or go against Sean.
We've talked so much about how the Bad Place people are just doing what they were taught.
Yeah, you know, and now this is either going to go away, or I'm sure Sean feels something, if not regular like hurt or pain or something. He feels something because this person that was close to him now is going against him. And there's something fun about that.
Yes.
And that's new and exciting since it's never happened before. And I think that they capture that so well in that scene for both of them.
I think this is one of the best scene, probably the best scene of the episode.
Yeah.
Michael walks out and he catches Sean pissing in the fountain one last time before it all disappears. And Michael says, you win. I have nothing else to offer you. And Sean, good. Very good. The humans will be gone. Your precious humans will be gone. Yep, guess so. Pretty bad. Congrats. See you in a million years. And Sean is just, well, yeah, but I'll be down your throat the next time they come here. And Michael says, yeah, I know. That's why I said, see you in a million years, billion years, whatever. Not so bothered. And just another time, we'll just keep at it. And Sean says, oh, well, I'm still totally going to do my super long evil speech that I plan. Michael doesn't care. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. Fine. You can already see clearly what Michael's doing. That he's just negging Sean, and then it's working, and that Sean is falling for it, hook, line, and sinker. He goes into his speech and only gets a few words deep until he's like, this feels stupid. If you're not going to fight back, how do you not have another plan? You always have another plan. Something I thought was really good. Sean's breakdown feels really in character. It doesn't feel like it sells out how evil he is. But all Michael has to say is what's wrong. He doesn't have to really prod a confession out of him.
No, not at all.
Because Sean is also like on that ticking time clock, and he just expects it to be perpetuated forever.
What's wrong, Sean?
Okay, fine. Gonna make me admit it. Fighting you is the most fun I've ever had. I mean, you know. You corkscrew your first eyeball and you're like, man, I can't believe they're paying me to do this. But by the trillionth, it's like, I should have just been a teacher. And then you go and get the warm fuzzies about your little humans, and something changed. I was having fun again. I'm not sure I'm ready for that to end.
I think there's a really great moment in his speech when he's talking about corkscrewing eyeballs, and Michael goes, remembering the good old days of when he did that. And two thought, why do I get paid to do this? Things raging when Michael started raging against the machine, made this all fun for Sean again. And even though they've been bitter enemies, it's been like the most fun cat and mouse game that Sean's ever had as a bad place demon. And he's not ready for it to end. And Michael makes the point that everybody's making. Like, it's always hard when things end and start over. And that's the whole point of all of this, is in a second, they're rebooting everything and it's all going to start over. What happens after that? It's not going to get better. It's not going to be fun for you or me if this all just starts over. And Michael even knows, because he heard Sean give a speech at Demon Con the last time we saw, that even Sean knows that the system is flawed and something is up. That's why, in the first place, Sean had to be one of the number one people to give an okay to try out the neighborhood thing, because he knew the system was flawed.
Yeah. The bad place is looking for innovation, and this is going to solve everyone's problems.
Exactly. But it's become this like personal petty drama. And Michael's like, we can still have personal petty drama. Let's try a new way together. So we cut to the chambers. This is the last scene of the episode. And Sean and Michael are discussing. They're like deep in discussion as the judge pops in and says, okay, for the last time, I, the judge of the afterlife, hang on, Your Honor. Are you kidding me? Can a gal just end humanity one time without everyone getting all up on her junk? And Michael tells her, to the shock of the judge, that Sean has agreed. The judge looks to him to confirm this. A really good Sean line. He's not like a good guy now. He's still the same guy. He says, in principle, yes, still some kinks to work in. Out. Sorry, old habit. Thought that was funny. You got to work some kinks in. But he thinks this may work. Meanwhile, in the background, this episode ends softly.
Yeah.
Because there's two little bits left. Jason pulls a trick with a clicker and says, hey, everybody, look at this. And he flips the clicker and everyone freaks out, but he catches it and is like, what, you guys? I caught it. It's fine. Have some fun. The judge then asks, well, if we're changing everything according to this plan, what do we do next? So everyone looks to Chidi, as they did at the end of the last few episodes. And he says, don't look at me. I'm just the idea guy.
I think that's super funny.
End of episode. I like this episode. I do too. I think what I didn't make clear, the Timothy Oliphant thing makes you think, oh, Janet could have been doing stuff like this the whole series, and the show could have been full of celebrity cameos of people playing themselves. And I'm so glad that they saved it for this moment to do something that works really well with the judge character.
And it's unexpected.
Doesn't overstay its welcome and is unexpected, but makes so much sense for the world of the show.
Yeah.
I think this is a good episode, but like you said, we've seen so many ticking clock episodes, and we've been stretching out this specific one over its couple moments for 3 episodes now, even though the Chidi episode was so satisfying, was perfect. I was ready for this to go a little bit further by the end of it. So mainly it leaves me with, that was good, but I need the next one now, or else that doesn't really feel worth it.
There's only a handful left, only a few.
There is 3 episodes left, 4 recaps left for us after this episode. And with that in mind, what do you think about this episode as one of the last few, really setting up the ending of the show?
I think it's really good. And I remember a couple weeks ago was the one I was saying that I think could have been combined into 2 episodes. But this one, I like that they spent the time they did on it, because I think that everything that happens in this episode is important.
Well, sure, of course.
The different Janets are important. The Michael, Sean, I'm glad that there was time for that to exist, and I think that's really good too.
This episode is important in that because more than anything, the Michael, Sean culmination of their series-long, universe-spanning storyline feels really earned, feels really true to both characters, and feels like finally we're at a point where there's no but. There's a how do we move forward from this on all sides, which is what we'll get out of the next couple episodes. And to be honest, I don't remember much between now and the finale. Do you?
Bits and bobs.
Yeah. I'm excited to see where all it goes because
I'm very excited.
The Good Place does so much in each episode. A lot is yet to happen in these last 4, if you can believe it, recaps.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And that kicks off, that closes out our recap of the first of the final 5 episodes of The Good Place. You've changed, man, and all that's left to do is hand out the Good Place and Bad Place awards, starting with the Bad Place. Steven, who are you feeling?
Now, I've changed because I originally, and I actually did still end up with someone different than I did the first time we did this. First time we did this, I gave it to Timothy Oliphant for poking holes in the plan, but I think he's just being a good investigator.
He's just keeping his ears and eyes and heart open.
And upon watching yesterday, I actually gave it to Jason because of almost messing up the presentation by saying we rest our case, and then almost pressing the button himself.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
But I think I am going to go with
the same place I am?
Sean.
Oh, okay. Nope.
Only because of him stretching it out, and what if Janet hadn't been so good at hiding it, and because he was being a brat about the thing ending and not thinking big picture enough to see that
this could be good for him
Michael
too.
Is special, yeah, because he was letting that get in the way, and that could have ended everything. I'm gonna go Sean.
I think that's a good answer. I'm gonna go with the judge because Sean's gonna Sean. The judge has the responsibility to do the right thing. And she's literally so clouded by, I want to get back to my room so I can watch TV. I want this to be over. That's literally her motivation to end the world so quickly. And I think she, more than anyone, has a responsibility to do the right thing. And I think if she's making a decision based on getting this over as quickly as possible, that's not a good thing for a judge to do. You want to really thoughtfully hear all sides. And at a point, she doesn't even want to hear the sides anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it to the judge, even though I think it might be Maya Rudolph's best episode of the whole show.
I agree. Can't fight you
What
there.
about The Good Place?
Good Place for me, I originally gave it to Chidi because I think Chidi's awesome in this episode and he comes up with the, solution. But I went Janet this time. I think Janet has an awesome episode, prolonging the judge. All her performances are great. And she does one of the best pleads to the judge, talking about how she's grown after all these reboots. And she made the Oliphant.
I completely agree. I was almost thinking that maybe Michael has a little bit of an edge here. He's really doing some of the right things, getting the gang together for the last second push over the finish line. But I'm going to say Janet with the asterisk of all the Janets.
Yeah.
They were all willing, without flinching, even the bad Janets who just go out on a joke, to lay their life on the line just to buy a few minutes for them to maybe come up with an idea to save the world. Janet's, as a whole, let alone our Janet, would not have done that when we first met them. Look how far they've come, and look how far our Janet's come to where she's an example of how people can get better.
Big time.
It is Janet. That's a good call. You changed my mind by naming her there.
Wow.
Well, we did it, Steven. We did it. We dove deep into that episode, and it didn't feel like there wasn't a lot to dive into, even though we've literally done a podcast about this episode before. Because I feel like we really did a broad conversation about it the last time.
Big time. It was fun to really dive in.
Well, is there anything else you have to say for the people before we start getting out of here?
Thanks for listening. It's been a fun ride with you guys.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here with us as we begin to close out this show and think forward to the next one. It'll just 2 more episodes of The Good Place before you get to find out the 4th option for what our next podcast might be. And then you'll finally have all 4 in the vote will be nigh, and so will the finale of Into the Time Knife. So it's a big time for Can't Disappoint podcasts. And I think this doesn't spoil anything. After spending time with you, after watching a good chunk of a certain show, which is one of the ones I've been throwing around for my last option, I think that's got to be it.
I think so too.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to share it. And I'm excited for any of the options that get voted, whether it's I Think You Should Leave, the Studio Ghibli films, which I've been thinking about a lot ever since we watched Totoro. I want to dive through all those, but I'll wait until after the vote to commit to a rewatch. Because if it wins, I want to watch it for the podcast, and I don't want to have watched 5 or 6 of them already. And if it doesn't win, I'm going to start a rewatch for sure. I'm excited. It could be any of them, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be good regardless.
And if you want more of us in the meantime, there is so much more Zach and Steven, some of our highest quality, most unhinged content over at patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast, where starting at $5 a month, you get not only all of our exclusive content that you can only find there, but you also get to help keep this trolley chugging along as we finish The Good Place and move into the next one. We would really appreciate your support if you enjoy what we do here every week. Patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. Now, Steven, where else can the people find us?
If you want to get down and dirty with our frozen yogurt, yeah, you know what's up. Go follow us on Twitter and Instagram over at TimeKnifePod. We're also on YouTube. Find the video companion to this podcast. See all the fun, zany stuff. See me get the
perfect crooked camera angle.
Yeah. What if I made you be off more with my directions? Just
I think it looks better now. Honestly, the problem was the problem it was last time. It's where my focus point is.
Get your focus together.
Where my eyes lie.
Yeah, Zach doesn't know where to look. But come check us out. We're there. Like us on Facebook.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in, for going through the podcast. Hopefully, after hearing our recap of The Good Place, you've changed, man.
Hey, man.
Well, Steven, I think it's time for us to lock hands as we sit next to each other as strangers on a Greyhound bus and watch the solar eclipse. Without covering our eyes, just looking straight at it.
Wide open.
Let's go burn the fuck out of our eyes. Get us out of here.
From inside the time knife. Black Lives Matter.
I'm Zach.
I'm Steven.
And we'll see you next time. We love you very much. Change my angle a little. I know I've been messing with it. It's one of those days where it's bugging me.
It was definitely in a weird spot when you first, when I first saw you on StreamYard earlier.
Oh yeah.
But before the stream started, when you first joined.
How's this?
It's just not straight, but that's okay.
It isn't straight.
Tilt it towards Bart a little bit.
Towards Bart a little bit. Is that better or more?
Now it's more.
See, I feel like it's... Because I always judge by my picture.
Oh, is this reversed? Is Bart on your right or left?
Bart is on my left.
Okay, then yeah, tilt it towards Bart.
Right? Really?
Are you tilting it at all?
Yes. Can you...
Oh, there we go.
Just small tilts.
Yeah. I'm using the Ween poster behind you as a level. And
that's
Baby
what I
Girl.
usually use. Yeah.
Hold on. That's pretty good. That's much better. Much better.
This episode of The Good Place was directed by Rebecca. This episode of The Good Place was directed by Rebecca Asher, who previously directed 2 episodes, The Ballad of Donkey Doug. No.
Not one of your favorites.
And before we started doing this, is my camera still fucked up?
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fucking fine.
It's one of those days, Steven. It's one of those days.
You look so dumb right now.
Rachel sings it looking longingly at Finn.
That's so funny. If you put on quite a show, very entertaining. Now it's time to go. But it's over now. So go on and take a bow.
I just splished on my face.
I splished on you?
You look so dumb right now. Standing outside my house, trying to apologize. You're so ugly when you cry. Please just cut it out.
I had an idea, but I lost it. I was going to say something to counter you, but then I just got sucked into listening.
Aw. Thanks, Zach.
Anyway.
Move it along. We got an eclipse here.
Exactly.
Time to go. Curtains finally closing. That was quite a show.
handshake to you, sir. There we go. Yeah, give me that left.
Okay, one more.
Oh,
a good one.
Right to right, left to
closer to the. No.
Bye, everybody.